Hello everyone, this is my presentation on FERPA involved in schools. So during this presentation, we're going to talk about what FERPA is, some important facts you need to know regarding FERPA, laws and requirements within FERPA, the digital age, how to keep schools compliant, and then the data destruction involved in FERPA. So what is FERPA? FERPA just stands for Family Education Rights and Protection Act. And what FERPA does is it's a federal law that protects all confidential records of students who are enrolled in schools. And then within those schools, to make it a little more clarified, it just applies to any school districts or institutions. So elementary, high school, collegiate, that receive any funding from programs administered by the Secretary of Education. So any type of institution, building, school district that does receive funding from the U.S. Department of Education is going to have to comply with FERPA laws. So FERPA laws, so the basic guidelines that apply to FERPA are any parents in adult age. So adult age is going to apply to students who are anywhere from 18 or above enrolled in college courses, and that can apply to 17-year-olds as well. Some students do get into college at the age of 17, and if they're at one of those institutions, this is going to apply to them as well. So those age students can inspect their records and gain a copy of any of their records anytime they're needed. They have the right to deny access anyone outside of the school system. So if somebody needs something and the parents do not want that specific person or institution gaining the access, they do not have to give permission, or they can give permission. Each person has the right to correct errors. So if any changes are needed, they can correct anything that needs to be corrected. So change of address, change of names, anything like that. So students have the right to opt out of any military recruitment. So not every student is eligible or is going to be eligible for military recruitments. These students can also opt out of disclosing their students' directory information, and we will go into what the directory information involves a little later. And then these students have a right to a complaint process. So if something goes wrong, if they feel that their rights have been violated, they have a right to a suit or a right to have that corrected. So the U.S. Department of Education has consolidated their information from FERPA into one big document. So this document is going to explain really the big general requirements that most institutions are going to deal with when they are dealing with student information, and then anything that is protected by this law. So some of the basic general requirements that you're going to see with FERPA are going to do with these 6 things. So education records are just going to directly relate to the student and are going to be directly related to that specific education building. So the school, the institution. Direct information or directory information is any information that's not harmful or felt that it is an invasion of privacy. That's going to be like your name, your date of birth, anything that you automatically feel comfortable telling someone else. That's not going to be something that's going to feel confidential. So PII, that stands for personally identifiable information. So this can relate directly to any student and something that when you see it, you can automatically tell that it is that specific student. Consent, parents or eligible students have to sign and date before any of those PIIs are released. Some exceptions to FERPA are going to deal with health and safety. So if a student somehow breaks a leg at recess or has a seizure, anything medically necessary that they can give the hospital or said persons the information needed. Same thing with law enforcement unit records. So if by chance a student needs to be taken in for questioning, anything such as that, that is going to be a time when that is going to be an exception for the law. And then recording, requests and disclosures for parties that have requested this information, they have to have legitimate interest to request this information. So somebody can't just go in and ask for a specific student's records without having proper proof or a reason for requiring this information. So within the laws, one specific thing that can sometimes be a little messy is going to be surveillance cameras. So because schools, because of safety, they have to have surveillance cameras watching any hallways and entrances into the buildings. And these surveillance footage is going to be seeing students' faces. And so if by chance a school district or building needs to see a specific student, the following guidelines are going to be in place so that way they do not break or interfere with any FERPA laws. So this recording is going to be used during disciplinary actions involving the students, whether either they are the perpetrator or they are the victim in that situation. The recording is used to identify the student who has committed the act, so anything that goes against school policies, they are able to see that on the cameras. If the school needs to use the recording to focus on a specific student, so say they are needing it for to find a student or anything such as that, they can use it for those purposes. And then the video shows any content that could hold those PIIs. So if it shows something such as that, they are not able to use those. And then again, within those laws, another big thing is immigration and customs in schools. So there were like 5 big categories related to students who are undocumented. So most schools are going to have an SRO, and generally they do not have the authority to remove these undocumented students. The districts have to be able to keep confidential information private. So no matter who that student is, they are protected by FERPA, and you cannot just go in and gain the information needed. Any SAT or ACT data, all of that does fall under FERPA regulations because it is a state mandated test, so that is going to fall under that law as well. Access to student records are can only be shown if there is a valid court order. So say if by chance there is a student who is undocumented, they have to show proof and they have to have a court order to be able to see that student. And then states cannot deny access to education for any students involved. So if it is an undocumented student, they still, as long as they are enrolled in that school, they have to give that student the education along with everybody else. Okay, digital age and FERPA. So because everything is beginning to be online, so all the files and it's not in file folders anymore, everything's online because it saves space, it saves time, it saves paper. So files that are now digital, sometimes some of these, the information with students dealing with FERPA is not clear because FERPA defines most of these for paper pencil sort of situations, and they haven't really gotten to the point of having everything online. So that is something FERPA is working on, is getting all of their laws to where everything is online as well. And then the increase of those EdTech tools, again, data is not being protected as well as it should, which goes into the other facts, which is that some vendors that the schools use, so vendors being apps or websites that the schools have contracts with, some of these that are free could be mining information. So basically they say they are free, but how they are earning their money is that they are gaining and mining information of your students without your knowledge. So if a vendor is using the information and you have a contract with them, the school is the one who is going to be at fault because they signed that contract. They should have read everything. So schools really need to look out and be sure that the vendors they are working with are not going to be mining information, and they have all of the necessary information available so that that way they are not making any contracts with people they should not be. So, some simple ways that most schools can stay compliant with FERPA are these. So, you're raising a FERPA awareness so all of your staff and your teachers know exactly what the laws are. Confirm that FERPA applies to you. Again, it is any institutions or schools dealing with students K through 12, and then again above once they hit that 18 level. Again, if it is an institution for education. So again, knowing the rights and protections and exemptions, like those guidelines I talked about earlier, knowing some of those basics are going to really help you continue to understand how you are using FERPA in your buildings. And then again, choosing compliant vendors, making sure your vendors are doing exactly what the contract says and they are not going to be using that information against the students. Making sure you train all of your school employees, so the teachers, the administrators, everybody understands how FERPA is used and why. And then implementing compliant policies. So again, that just goes along with making sure all your employees know what they're doing, and making sure the parents and the community members as well. Making sure your files can be encrypted so they are unable to read unless you have a specific code or whatever means necessary to get into that specific file. And then any other implementation tools that are going to help prevent student information getting out. So within data destruction, so after these students have left and the correct time period for their information to be held within the school has passed, and every document is going to be different. So knowing the 3 different types of destruction methods are going to go along with the different types of materials that are being destructed. So any type of destruction method that is clear, so it is deleted. However, some of these are still able to get access again. So you want to make sure that if it is being clear, it is something that is not going to be following the FERPA guidelines. So a purge is kind of in between. So it is erased, but somebody could potentially find this information again. And then destroy is the last one, is the highest. So if you destroy something, that information is completely erased and it is not able to be found again. So most of those things are probably going to fall under the destroy category. However, again, it just depends on the specific type of information and data that you are using. Okay, thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope that gives you some good insight into FERPA and a better idea of what it does and how you can use it in your schools.